I
million
just
units.
Googled it and it said 2 million units sold, which is about 3% of their install base. But that was Google's AI slop. So who
Okay. I
knows
don't
if it's
remember
accurate.
where I heard the 2 million number myself. I did a Google and this is apparently the
I love
sources.
that
I did a Google.
the premier search engine that we all used to know
You know,
and love. Now we don't trust a word that comes out of it. Like,
Yeah,
no,
it's a
certainly
bunch of
not if it's
bullshit.
AI summarized. Heck no.
No.
man, those guys don't care.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. It's me, it's Rich, it's Carrie. Rich, what have you been up to, man?
Oh, a whole lot of nothing. I've been working a lot, but I've also been watching Paradise on Hulu. I'm not going to spoil anything, but have you guys been watching that?
Mm-mm.
I have not. My a friend of mine from work, just like we're always talking about the shows we've been watching, and I keep saying you got to watch The Pit, and she keeps saying you got to watch Paradise, and so it's on my list.
Yeah.
And she's not the only person that has told me about that. So now that you've added it on there, it's moving up. It's getting higher on the list.
The
but
Pit
I've heard good things.
Came up in conversation this week, and I'm like, oh, I think that's the one Bill told me about. ER meets 24.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so that's moving up on our list. That might be next.
I freaking love that. It is my favorite new show that we're watching, and
Nice.
It is so freaking good, and all the acting is awesome, and it's super realistic. I love it.
Sick.
Carrie, what have you been up to, man? You watching anything?
I was watching Severance for a hot second, and then I was like, you know what? I just want to wait for this to fully come out, and then I'm just going to binge it because I don't want to keep on waiting every week. But I've been like dodging any spoilers, which I've been getting pretty good at. Like I'll just be scrolling by, but that looks like Severance. Whoa! I just rattle through a bunch of different stuff, even though I don't need to. But it's just like, oh, let me just not go through there. So that's the only show that I've been watching that I care to watch. The only thing that I'm looking forward to Stranger Things. My entire family watches that, so I'm looking for the finale of that later this year. One Punch Man finally got a release date, end of October, season 3. So I'm gonna look forward to that as well. They did. Have you guys watched Ted Lasso yet?
Nope.
My wife and I have watched that show 4 times.
It's so good.
Wow.
It is unbelievably good.
They are making a season 3 to it, so looking forward to whenever that's going to happen.
Season 4.
Season 4. Yeah, they're making another season. Yeah. There's a part of me that dies a little inside, and I realize that there are a lot of really good TV shows, but back in my day, we would have had 24 episodes per year every year.
No, I'm with you on this. I am with you on this.
I'm not. I'm against that.
You're like, oh, that season ended. I'll wait another 4 years for the next season.
I am sick of Netflix seasons because it went from 8 to 6. Like all the new series are 6 episodes. American Primeval, I think, was 6 episodes. No, thank you.
But back in the day when you had, I know this is a video game podcast, everybody, but you all have TVs too, so just stick with us for a second. Back in the day when you had seasons with 24 episodes in a season, there was a lot of filler. And I feel like a lot of that filler just gets cut out and they just stick to the story.
I'm not with you. I've been rewatching Justified.
Oh, I love Justified.
Exactly. It was a great show. I think that's 24 episodes per season.
That's the diamond in the rough.
At the very least, per year. Give me 6 episodes per year. I don't care what it is. Just at least do it yearly.
Season per year, sure.
I am 100% with you on that one.
Yeah, it's like, what's the name? There's like a one Rick and Morty. I forget which one, but it has Mr. Poopy Butthole at the end. And he's like, so we'll see you next year. Maybe, I guess. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be 2. I guess we'll find out.
Well, Carrie, you brought up Stranger Things. And Stranger Things, these are kids.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're like in their freaking 20s now.
Exactly.
Their mid 20s at this point because it's been so long.
Yeah.
Like when we finally get back to Hawkins, Indiana, spoilers with the giant hole in the city or in the town. Are these kids even going to be recognizable at that point?
It's crazy that it's taken so long, but it's like, thankfully they are ending it now. But I really, really enjoyed Stranger Things. I'm a real big fan of it. I love how they did everything. I think I don't know. There's that whole 80s element that I just love.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The attention to detail.
But, it is a video game podcast, so we can take what we're talking about right now and link it to video games, because we just got a trailer for The Last of Us Season 2, and it is like one of the most watched. It's definitely HBO's most watched trailer ever, and it is like, if you stacked it up against movies, I think it had like 300 million views or some crazy number like that for this. I don't remember the number. It was a lot. Yeah. And as somebody who has never played the games, really? I played like 15 minutes of the first one, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But I watched the show, and I was like, loved it. I loved every second of it. I cannot wait for the new season. Pedro Pascal's amazing in it. And everybody who's going to tell me, Bill, you got to play the games. I don't need to play the games. I'm getting the story this way. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I haven't watched season 1 is because I feel like I've watched season 1 already, right? Like, I played Last of Us Part 1, and it was amazing. I enjoyed the story, and I've heard about how closely the, not just the stories, but like the scene composition, right? Like how closely it's matched. And I'm like, oh, that sounds wonderful, but I don't really need to watch it because I played the game.
Yeah.
It was nice watching with my wife, who had never played the game, and talking with her about it. I was like, yep, that's exactly how the game was. And she became more interested in that. So it was nice from that angle, because then I was able to just show her stuff from like season, season 2, Last of Us Part 2, the game. And I was like, look at, this. She's like, oh, that's going to be crazy. So she's looking forward to it from the TV show angle. I really enjoy that they are keeping so close to the source material. They have deviated from it a bit, but not too much. It's really just like extra detail of like other stuff that was going on.
Mm-hmm. Like the Nick Offerman episode.
Yeah. So that was fine. But yeah, I really, it's the same thing for like the Fallout TV series. I love that that is deep in the canon. Like whatever happens in the TV series happened in game. Whatever happened in game happened in the TV series. So they're keeping this continuous thing, and I'm a big fan of that. So as long as they keep on doing that, it shouldn't be that hard, right? Like as a thing is like, you should just do the things that the fans like. And it's like, you think we shouldn't just adapt it and make it our own and just change everything about it?
I'm okay with them changing stuff. I know that I don't want to get into a whole conversation about Halo because,
that TV series sucked.
Fair. I didn't watch it. I don't know. I could not care less if the canon of a video game is maintained in a TV show. It's just, as long as it's a good story and the acting's good and it's shot well, then I'm all for it. I don't really care.
I guess. I don't know.
Let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below.
Please.
Are you Team Carrie or Team Bill? Rich, make a decision right now.
I'm Team Bill. I'm okay with. I'm not precious about canon, as long as it's entertaining on its own. That's me.
I was gonna take it off. I was gonna create like this cool, weird straw man of like Last of Us and just having some weirdo story that had nothing to do with the Last of Us game that was also not canon. People were like, what the hell did I just watch? But I don't know. I wouldn't have liked that. I don't think a lot of people would have liked that. But whatever. I guess.
I think most people who watched The Last of Us never touched the game. That's my guess, because it was a phenomenon. It was so huge. But let's move on and talk about video games, and I want to start by talking about Microsoft's new handheld that's supposed to be coming out this year, which is surprising. You guys were talking about the code name. I forgot what it is. What's the code name again?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. What we thought it was Keenan when it was first announced, but there are two N's. So how do you pronounce that? Is it Kenan? Kanan? What was the other one, Gary?
I should ask my wife, because she's a reading teacher. She would be able to tell us, but she's not
Kanan,
here.
But that just sounds weird. But when Jez Gordon first reported on it, it was Keenan. Clearly, one N, two E's.
Got it.
And then Tom Warren was like, actually, it's Kanan, or however you pronounce it. And the whole thing just seems really weird. I don't know. It's just odd.
What seems weird about it? Are you still talking about the code name or just in general?
The idea for it. It seems it's a very How do you do, fellow kids, with the old man with a skateboard on his
Man,
back?
am I with you? Am I with you? Yes. I feel like we're going to be alone on this. What is the, like, I mentioned before the podcast that I've been unplugged, right? But like, what is the general consensus on this thing?
I think that, there's a lot of mixed messaging and it's vague on purpose about what it actually is. The only thing that people know is that they are effectively partnering with Asus on this to create a PC gaming handheld that is heavily Xbox branded.
But we don't know that it's Asus, do we?
That's the rumor, is that it's specifically Asus. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that it was Asus. I was understanding that Microsoft wasn't the ones that were making it, but it was going to have an Xbox button, regardless.
It's Xbox. It's very, very Xbox heavy. To the same credit of this is an Xbox type of thing that they are going towards. Well, so okay, fine, but it's a very it's weird insofar as that there is nothing from AMD that is exciting this year at all in terms of APUs.
I don't know that personally, I don't know that I care that it is, oh my gosh, new chip that is going to be faster or whatever. What I really want and what I think will happen is that it will, because it's first off, it's not an Xbox. No. I mean, they're saying Windows. It's an Xbox, but it's a Windows PC, and essentially it's going to have Microsoft's new promised UI that is controller friendly, which we have been bitching about for years at this point. We've been complaining about the lack of a good controller first interface.
And to be clear, you expect them and have faith in them to deliver on this handheld UI.
Well, that's what I think that they're trying for. I don't know that I expect or have faith that it will happen, but I will be very happy if it does.
But that's my point, right? Is like, if there's nothing exciting from a hardware end, the only exciting bit is whatever Microsoft could possibly do on unifying Windows to work correctly on a handheld or couch playing, right? Like, it's like they're one and the same, right? Whatever you're doing on a controlling Windows with a controller, right? No matter which way you look at this, controlling Windows with a controller, either on a handheld or sitting 10 feet away. If Microsoft can do that. So there's like this vast gulf of vague whatever's going to happen here. At the worst case scenario, we have Game Bar version 2, compact mode, which who cares? And then we have on this end, oh crap, they actually did fix everything. This is dope. That is whatever, like, our best hope is. Somehow that the Xbox team can come around and corral the Windows team, bypass layers of bureaucracy, say no, controller is a first-class citizen, X this, Y, and this, we need standby here, screw that, we're gonna do this. That's what we need. Will that happen within 6 months? Like, maybe they've been working on this for a while, right? I don't know. But that's why, if at least it had hardware, you could say, well, that's something to look forward to. But it doesn't have that. And the rumored price of it right now is $500 to $600. So if we were to take that at face value, what are the decisions we can go from here? Is Microsoft subsidizing this in any way with Asus? Are they giving Asus any money to help produce this to hit that price point? Regardless if they do that or not, take a look at the Lenovo Legion Go S, the Windows version. That's $730 for the Z2 Go, which is about 10% worse than the Z1E in the Asus Ally and Ally X now. Well, the Ally X, the Ally X and the the Z1E and the Ally X.
Right.
Yes. You get 10% less performance. It's going to be $500 to $600, which is prices we've already been able to get on these handhelds. I'm like struggling to find out where that is attractive. So that's where the hardware sits and why that is such like a crappy place to be in, because now they have to hit a home run of software so far that it changes people's minds.
Agreed.
I don't know that it needs to change people's minds. I think that there's a lot of people who are sitting on the sidelines right now who don't have a handheld at all. And like, they're fans of Xbox and they are in the Game Pass Xbox ecosystem, And when they pick this up, it's going to feel like if when they pick this up, it feels like an Xbox for those people, that's a win. And I would say that this is, in my opinion, kind of similar to the Steam Deck, where, I mean, if the analysts' forecast or projections are to be believed, where they have sold maybe 5 million units, that's a minuscule, paltry number of systems sold that absolutely dwarfs all the other ones, but still, it's not a lot. But I think Valve would still look at that and say, well, yeah, it's a win for us. It's doing fine. And so for Microsoft to have this thing where they're not really taking the risk, they're just licensing their logo and saying Asus or whoever, if it's not Asus, go ahead and make this thing, and we're going to give our new UI on this. I don't think that there's much risk for Microsoft here. And I'm not, as far as the hardware goes, I don't really care. But if the software is good, and then that software also goes upstream, and then ends up on all of the other Windows handhelds, or my TV connected to my computer connected to my TV over here, that is a win for everybody who doesn't want to use a mouse and keyboard. And so I'm excited for that, but just that.
I think, yeah. I mean, if they can deliver some sort of handheld first UI, that would be a huge win for everyone. I think at this point, I have very little faith in that, right? Like, I think it's been years since we asked for this. Carrie did it in a video.
Right.
The box of scripts.
Right.
Right. And Phil is over there like, yeah, we're going to do this for you. And it hasn't happened yet. And so like, maybe eventually it will. But I think the further time goes on, the more, to Carrie's point, they have to deliver.
Yes.
The bigger they have to deliver. And at this point, for me personally, a lot of time has gone on. I think what they would have to deliver for me to be impressed at this point has shown to be greater than what they have been doing. One thing I want to point out too, is what I would like to see is just thinking about like people's libraries, right? Like the thing about Steam Deck and why it doesn't necessarily need, and I don't think you were saying otherwise, Bill, but it doesn't necessarily need more than 5 million or whatever, is because people already on PC have these libraries, right? And so similar thing potentially for Xbox, where maybe there are going to be new people building up their library. Maybe these are people that are coming from PC or coming from Game Pass and they don't need to build up the library. But there are, or at least I would think there is the goal to attract people that are already Xbox consumers, as you were alluding to, and you don't have your library unless your library is just Game Pass.
Yeah.
And to a degree, Series S/Series X is pretty much the same as a PC. So like maybe you don't need your library, but one thing I want to point out is emulation, right? Not emulation, backwards compatibility. Is if they can, what would kill for me personally is if they had Xbox One, really Xbox 360 and OG Xbox backwards compatibility. Those two generations, if they were able to nail backwards compatibility for that on PC, that would be tremendous.
That would be huge, yeah.
When we talk about their software, and I 100% agree, that would be really, really interesting if they could, because it's a PC, it's not an Xbox, and so bringing those Xbox games to the PC, exactly, that would be a very impressive thing, and that would be a big selling point. And I think it would be foolish of Microsoft to limit it to just their hardware. It should just be on PC all the way. As long as you sign into your Xbox account, you get access to that stuff. That would be really cool, and it would really change the conversation, I think.
Oh, yeah, because then it would actually be an Xbox. Not just like a vague kind of sort of Xbox as long as you have Game Pass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
I will say my one fear about this thing is that, let's say that Microsoft does solve the UI issue, but they only solve the UI issue for their stupid store that nobody likes using. but then you like every time you try and use Steam or Good Old Games or the Epic Game Store or something else, it's like, sorry, it kind of sucks using these things. I guess you have to use a mouse and keyboard, or you got to reach over and hit the touch screen.
Yeah.
That would be dumb.
It would be.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing a boardroom would say, well, we got to make sure that we don't solve that.
Like, yeah, you can. Well, see, like, that's the whole thing, right? If you're going to be at Windows at that point, you have to be a partner for everyone else to the nth degree. And that is, without a doubt, Microsoft's clear strength that they've had for 40 years now is that they've been incredible partners with everybody, right? And not preventing anyone from anything. You can, like, Tim Sweeney's not suing Microsoft for getting rid of 30% because he just made his own store on PC and just did it, right? Like, that's that's what PC is. That's what PC promises. And even for Windows, even though the operating system is closed source, it still is an open platform. Yeah. So you can go wherever you want on there. You're not restricted to it. And this is more or less like why I made the video I did was, we need the controller to be a first-class citizen first, and it needs to be an input that is agnostic to anything else that's running, but you just need to make sense of that and how do you maneuver in there. There's also other things to talk about too, like what is the next generation controller? Does the next generation Xbox controller, the next generation of X input, have gyro built into it? If you have gyro, then you have a mouse pointer. You have a mouse pointer, right? Like, you have ways with newer stuff, and a lot of these handhelds have gyro capabilities in them, so they can already piggyback on other stuff to feed into whatever is the next layer of X input. So there's things there, but that, like, to get there, it seems like they haven't for whatever reason, which is bizarre to me, right? Because Microsoft supported tablets before tablets were even a thing. They supported resistive touchscreens, pen input, generalized pen input. They have all of these different things that could, like, as are acceptable first-class citizens for input. And yet a controller is just like, well, why would you do that? And it's just like, come on, guys. Like, goodness gracious. You do everything else. Why is this such a sticking point? And I don't know. I want to back up just a second because we're talking so much about Microsoft, and on this thing, I kind of feel bad for Asus in this, right? Because if Asus is the thing, like, sorry if I feel bad for Asus, right? This giant conglomerate. But put your feet in there. Like, if you owned Asus and Microsoft comes up to you and like, we want you to make a thing. Like, okay, it has to be $500 to $600. Like, okay, but we're not going to help pay for anything. Like, so I'm going to compete with myself, make something worse for you guys. Like, what am I getting out of this? Yeah. And they're like, do it. See you later. And you're like, oh, why? I'm going to make my last generation thing, like, in this weird position, right? Like, you're making a new thing that is heavily Xbox focused, that is detracting from your previous gen, where there is no new APU hardware wise. So it becomes this weird mixed messaging that Asus now has to untie. It's just, I have no idea what this is, because for me it just feels like, like we don't have an Xbox handheld. We're not going to have it until next year or like late next year. But Switch is coming out quick. Throw a Hail Mary. And it's like Asus gets the ball and they're like, huh? What am I doing with this? Run. They're like, oh, goodness.
I feel like if the changes, the UI changes, also apply to things like the ROG Ally X, then I think it's just a matter of preference. Especially, I'm almost betting that it's. I don't know if you guys saw. Bob had posted something on Blue Sky. It was 3 different handhelds, and they were essentially identical. And Bob Wolf, if for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, he had these 3 handhelds sitting on a table, and he said these are 3 different handhelds, and they looked identical. And it just feels like this is going to be the Xbox version of that, and that's I find that to be perfectly fine. And if it's made by Asus and they're going to be the ones that are making the money from the sale, I don't see why they would be sad about that, because it's not really, yes, it's competing, but they're making money on both things. It's like if Dell is making, it's like if Dell is making a computer And they're like, well, you could buy this Dell or you could buy that Dell. And I don't think Dell gives a shit which one you end up buying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, though, to combine your 2 points, Bill and Carrie, like, Bill, you were saying earlier that, like, this is great for Microsoft because it's very little risk for them, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if that's true, then it might be very big risk for Asus. Like, maybe they have to have very tight margins, but not just the tight margins, but like even though maybe it is perfectly fine to have multiple different models, which they already have, right? Like they have at least 2, but really then the configurations, but that is still something to navigate marketing wise, to have like multiple models. So like that's work for Asus. Do they mind? I mean, like, I think if they took the deal, they don't mind. It's a big corporation, as Carrie started to allude to. So like, yeah, I think they're big boys. They'll be fine. But from my perspective has been kind of more from a consumer perspective. I haven't, I mean, it's early. It's way early. I just haven't seen what, as a consumer, I'm supposed to be excited about yet.
Yeah, I mean, so let's imagine that the hardware comes out, and it's essentially the ROG Ally X with an Xbox button and a good interface, and that interface goes to other Windows handhelds. I don't care about the hardware. I just care about the software. And that's what Microsoft is. They are a software company.
Sure.
Yes, they make hardware, and somebody might be like, well, they have the Surface. I
think the
always
Surface
look
line
at
is over.
Yeah, it's over.
I think
the
so.
Surface Book specifically.
Yeah.
But Surface Pro, they're still, right? They're still pumping out those, right?
Let me double check, because I saw something and I was like, oh, okay. Because I know Panos Panay left.
Oh, well, Microsoft makes hardware, but they don't care if you buy their hardware to use Windows or if you buy somebody else's hardware to use Windows. They just want you to use Windows. So this is just giving people options. And if that means that, the people who are huge fans of Xbox, they see a thing with an Xbox logo and they're like, hot damn, this is what I've been waiting for. Then you know what? Good for them. But for the rest of us who don't have brand loyalty, and I'm not speaking for anybody on the channel or on the panel here, but for people who don't have brand loyalty, as long as we get to reap the benefits of good software, hooray for us, as far as I'm concerned.
Any predictions on how it sells compared to the PS Portal?
Compared to the PS Portal?
To the PS Portal specifically.
How many PS Portals were sold?
I want to say 2 million, but I don't think they gave us numbers, right? So I what were you going to say?
No, I have no numbers because I haven't seen any numbers. I just remember reading something, and I don't remember if I'm reading incorrectly, but I thought like PlayStation was just kind of like globbing Portal and PS5 hardware sales like just together. Like we sold like 20 million.
I just
units.
Googled it and it said 2 million units sold, which is about 3% of their install base, but that was Google's AI slop. So
okay,
who knows
I don't remember
accurate.
where I heard the 2 million number myself. I did a Google, and this is apparently the sources.
I love that.
I did a Google.
The premier search engine that we all used to know and love. Now we don't trust the word that comes out of it. Like,
no, certainly not. If it's AI summarized, heck no.
No.
Man, those guys don't care.
But to answer your question, how many does it sell compared to, say, the PS Portal? Well, you look at all of the Windows handhelds. We're talking about the ROG Ally, the Ally X, the Lenovo Legion Go. All of those in the past, since the Steam Deck came out, I think that the analysts posited that they sold roughly 2 million units total of all of them.
Really? Because I saw 8 million total, and then Steam Deck was 4 or 5 million.
So we have 3 years of data. The fourth year is projected. They're projected to sell another 2 million handhelds this total year. So far it's been 6 million that
I follow.
It's been 6 million, and 4 to 5 of those have been the Steam Deck. So
I see.
It's not a lot
2
of
million.
Windows handhelds. Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's a small amount.
So you think it should be in less than 2 million within a couple years?
Way less. Oh, in a couple years?
Yeah, let's say 2 years.
So, okay, I'm going to say probably 1 million.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, sounds like less than the PS Portal, which I would agree with.
Yeah. Half the install base of the PS Portal, which just got an upgrade, by the way. Like, you can now play
Cloud
PS1
games,
classic games streaming to it from...
Streaming.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's
close,
streaming.
so close.
It's a streaming device. What do you want?
It's PS1. You could do it. Come on. If all they needed was the SD card and native PS1, and if they had Wi-Fi 6, that would have been good too.
You're gonna need Wi-Fi 6 for PlayStation 1 games.
You're right, Carrie. You're right.
That's awesome.
I say this as someone that I still enjoy my PS Portal. I like it. So I think that they shortchanged it, right? Like Sony shortchanged it. Like they could have done more. And they're clearly showing that they could have done more, right? Because they're doing more after the fact. But I still like the device. I still play Astrobot on it. It's good.
When was the last time you played it?
About a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's sooner than I would have expected.
Yeah.
Like I would have expected you to say about 3-4 months ago or something like that.
I don't think I've played on my PS5 natively, like just play on my PS5 like in a while. Like if I play it, it's going to be on the Portal usually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. All right. Well, Xbox has this new bit of hardware coming out. I want to know what everybody who's watching this over on YouTube or listening to the podcast thinks. Are you interested in this handheld from Xbox? We've been talking about the possibility for a really long time. It seems like now it's finally actually going to happen, even though it's not Microsoft making it. Does that change your mind at all? Let us know in the comments down below. And let's move on. And gentlemen, we've got a bunch of stories in the show notes. We have so many stories in the show notes because we didn't have an episode last week.
That's true.
Rich, why don't you pick a topic from the show notes and we can tackle that?
I'm going for the easy one. Terminator 2D. What is it? Terminator
No Fate.
2D No Fate. Yeah.
Hell yes.
So this, I didn't know about this until you put it in the show notes. But it's a 2D Terminator game, and it has like the 16-bit aesthetic, like beautiful, crunchy pixel art. I'm excited about it also because it's made by Bitmap Bureau, and Bitmap Bureau has been just kind of like under the radar, like one of those small studios that feels like they're about to do something that is big, and maybe this is it, right? So they made a game called Xenocrisis, and before that they made a game called Final Vendetta. Both of these are games that are homebrew. Only Xenocrisis is. Xenocrisis is homebrew that was like ported to different consoles. So like they have a Sega Mega Drive version, they have a Dreamcast version, they have a Neo Geo version, and so like these are natively compiled on those for those consoles, and so you can buy the ROMs and stuff like that. Xenocrisis specifically is a Smash TV clone, and I love Smash TV. So like if you love that sort of dual stick shooting, it's a good game. So yeah, in this case, now they're taking the Terminator IP, and the graphics look right up my alley. I love it, and I can't wait to give it a try.
The graphics look super old school, but at the same time, the animation level is really good. Like when they show spoilers for a billion-year-old movie, but when they show at the end when Arnold is shooting the T-1000 and like he's about to fall into the lava or whatever, like the animation of like the number of frames of animation that you are seeing in that looks like there's a lot. And I just think it looks so freaking good. I love the idea when we take the limitations of yesterday and use them to pick an art style for today, but then you also make it more than it could have been, but it still feels like it could have been back then. That's really appealing to me. Carrie, did you are you a fan of the Terminator movies? Are you interested in this game?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Like, how could you not be a fan of the Terminator movies? I mean, there's like some glaring plot holes. I don't like it's Terminator 1 and 2 for me. The other ones I don't even consider anymore. I was like, those never happened. But Terminator 1 and 2 are fantastic, even with their kind of nonsense stuff. Like, it's the same thing of like the Matrix, right? Like, a lot of people get hung up on turning humans into batteries, like an energy source. And it's like, that's dumb. That's the dumbest thing you could do. Like, you could literally use anything else for power than human beings, because we're not very good power sources.
It's not very efficient, all the food you put into us.
So Terminator is along the same lines, where it's like you could like retcon that so easily, where it's like, no, he was purposely given wrong information by the robots, like, so that's like Kyle Reese coming back and he's like, oh yeah, they need to be in a meat sack before they can come back in time. like, oh, okay, that's why he was naked and in flesh. Like, all right, it's like, yeah, that's why they didn't have guns either. And then T-1000 in part 2 comes over, but he comes in like a meat sack to like teleport over. And it's like, well, why didn't you just put future guns into a meat sack as well? like, doesn't like a genius here, guys. So it's just a glaring plot hole there. But in any event, I love the Terminator series. Terminator 2 is a fantastic movie. There's just so much. I love both of them. So yeah, but I also agree with you, Bill. It's I love like older style games that are taken to an nth degree with newer modern techniques. Mm-hmm. And there's like a part of me that really like, there's a whole scene, right? The whole scene of like European Amiga days where they would just stretch the 68K as far as they could, which is also the Genesis. And you can see some of those European devs in a lot of Genesis games. And like the telltale sign for me is if you look at like the font work, and it just has like a kaleidoscope of colors for no reason with no defining border. It has like no edges. It's just like this big splomp of colors, like a rainbow. I love that, but it has to go. The best ones that I've seen are people that are familiar with the techniques of how they used to make games there and take those techniques and then take it to the next level, versus people that are just like doing flash-based keyframe type of thing. Like, here's like this, 8-bit thing, and here's this other animation. I'm just gonna tween between all these to create 80 frames of animation, where it's just like this, very smooth, not, you know what I mean? Is like,
yeah,
you can see that they took a lot of liberties and a lot of shortcuts to get where they were. And there's a lot of things when you're looking at those types of games, when you take a look at screenshots alone, you're like, that game looks awesome. But when you start playing it, it's like it really starts falling apart, and it's just this masquerading of what it actually is. So I feel like you can kind of get that idea, like you were saying, like the animation and the care and attention to detail to how they're putting that all together, how 2D side-scrolling shoot 'em up should be, and you can feel it through like watching it. But it's like one of those things where, I don't know, like the beat 'em ups. So Streets of Rage 4 I really enjoyed, and they had some leveling aspects to it. And I enjoyed that the most out of all like the beat 'em ups that came out. But like even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, once I had me and my buddies over on Game Pass, we played through it once. And then we were like, okay, like we just put all the quarters necessary in to beat the game, and then we were like, okay, we don't have to go back to that anymore, even though you're supposed to like go through it a few times. So I kind of have that kind of thing to it. There needs to be a progression path for me to actually really start sinking my teeth into this game. I feel like there needs to be I don't want to say roguelite or roguelike type of tendencies to these games, but I tend to prefer games that have roguelike tendencies to them, because they offer something to me that is something that I want to keep playing. So I think there's a delicate balance. Yeah.
Streets of Rage 4, by the way, did end up getting that. I want to say Shredder's Revenge got a roguelike DLC as well.
Oh, I saw the DLC, but I never played it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. But the Streets of Rage 4 one, man, that it's like an arena roguelite, survival roguelite. Man, it is good.
It is very good. And, you can feel it. And it's like, oh, okay, we're playing this. I played with a buddy, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, because I can enjoy game. It's like the Power Rangers game, right? That came out. That's kind of like in that TMNT beat 'em up arcadey type of thing. Those are, for us. They're for our generation, and they would have been appealing if we were passing through an arcade and we saw that and it's a track mode, you know what I mean? Just going through, you're like, oh, let me put a few quarters into this. And it's got that level of, gameplay that's available on there. Yeah. So I do think that it's hard making those types of games. So for this particular game, while I appreciate it, it's like one of those things where I'm like, oh, it's going to be like one of those beat 'em ups. So I don't know.
It looks more Contra-ish. Sorry.
It does look very Contra-ish. Yes, absolutely.
It is, but I consider Contra in that same field, right? Like I enjoy it, but it's like I'm not going to stick to it. It's not going to be something that I'm going to play it. I guarantee you, I will play it. But it's just, what was it? Blazing Chrome. That's Blazing Chrome was like that as well.
Yeah.
Another
good game.
So I'm curious, Carrie said that he needs to be able to go, or doesn't need to, but he prefers to be able to go back to the game after he's finished it. Do you feel the need, like with Shredder's Revenge? Did you feel like, oh, okay, well, I finished it, I'm done, I can move on to the next thing? Or do you feel like I need something with a little more meat on its bones, otherwise I'm not going to feel like I got my money's worth?
No, I definitely don't need that. But I will say, as perhaps a critique of Shredder's Revenge, is that at least in the base game, it didn't feel like there was much more reason to play it. I know that, like, as Carrie was alluding to, they did have like stuff. It didn't draw me in as much as Streets of Rage 4, even before Streets of Rage 4's DLC did, where like I just wanted to play now. I want to go the harder difficulty. And so like even beat 'em ups like Streets of Rage 4 and like Fight and Rage, that's another really good 2D beat 'em up. Those are games that like I did feel compelled to go back to even after I beat it. And so, that's a feather in the cap of those two games that I feel like Shredder's Revenge lacked for me.
So quick question for both of you. I'll start with Carrie. Pick an IP from, because this is absolutely a nostalgia fest, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to pick an IP that you would want to receive this treatment.
Okay. Any IP.
Sure.
Don't take mine.
Go for me right now. I'm still thinking, Rich.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Karate Kid / Cobra Kai. Like the promise of a good Karate Kid game was never really delivered. I enjoyed the Karate Kid game that was on NES, but I wouldn't say it was good. I enjoyed it as a child, in the way that it was and in the context that I had video games, but I wouldn't go back to it now. And with Cobra Kai kind of resurging, I feel like it's a good time to give it that treatment.
While Carrie's typing furiously, I'm going to say Thundercats.
Good one.
I would love to see Thundercats get this.
Did they not make that?
They made a Thundercats 2D side-scroller?
I thought they did.
Get out of town. I loved that show when I was a kid. I had the stupid sword and everything.
Oh, I had the sword as well.
There's a 2012 Nintendo DS game that I'm not familiar with. 2D platform game. Players control Lion-O.
There was a new one. I guess it didn't come out, but it was with that new art style of Thundercats that wasn't the Rankin Bass version style.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't have Uncle Phil, though, so I don't know if I can get behind it.
I'm gonna go somewhere crazy, and I think that'll be totally easy because it shouldn't be too hard to get, and that'll be Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Would be a fantastic IP for a nonsense beat 'em up, because you just have that movie is just nonsense as it is. There's a bit of a deeper meaning to it, but there's a lot of stuff in there that I think fits right at home with the 80s arcade. Just everything about it. I think that would be a fantastic IP. Really cheap. Should be able to just pick it up for a few pennies.
So let us know in the comments section down below, or if you are interested, we have a new, like a phone line, essentially. It's called voicecast.app/nerdnest. You guys can go there and you can leave a message and we can play it on the show. Just like the one that I'm going to play for these guys right now, we're going to go back and talk a little bit more about Valve. Take a listen.
Just wanted to chime in on the Fremont discussion from the podcast. I would say Fremont with a controller shouldn't cost more than an LCD deck. Just the base model, in my opinion, especially with the battery and the screen being cut out of the device. For $400 US, 500 Canadian, that should be the absolute upper limit. But anything lower than that is obviously better for anybody buying them. I think my biggest concern about it, oddly enough, is that a 1080p screen has 2 million pixels, which is double what you have on a Steam Deck. So are they going to be able to push games at double the resolution of the deck at a decent frame rate if they sell it with the included controller, and if it comes with Half-Life 3 as a potential tie-in? Because a controller by itself in the US is probably a $60 value, and a brand new AAA game having a $60 value, that would probably do wonders to make the console just fly off the Steam store.
So he's responding to our discussion 2 weeks ago, last episode, where Russ and I were thinking 400, 500 would be the price of the Fremont, and Rich and Carrie, I'm outnumbered now. They were thinking much cheaper. What do you guys think about what that was Matt, by the way, who chimed in about that. What do you guys think about Matt's idea of, you can raise the price and then include the controller and include Half-Life 3? Do you think that that's something that they would need to do if it were more expensive?
Definitely has to include the controller, no doubt about it. I think 400, Matt, I think sold me 400 with Half-Life 3 as a pack-in, assuming it plays Half-Life 3 well. I think that is a people will be more convinced by that than just what I was thinking before, which is just $400 for a box with a controller. With Half-Life 3, something that people have been anticipating, and like this notion that this is a, easy way to play it. You just plug it in and you can be playing Half-Life 3 like that. I think that's a good sell.
Gary?
Yeah, so 400 I think is also the upper bounds of what I think this thing should cost with a controller and Half-Life. I think that is compelling for a lot of reasons. When we get to here's the kicker, is that there seems to be, I follow this, and there's like one guy that's just like totally always vague, and supposedly there's 2 APUs that are flying around. Fremont is, the one that we talked about is still out there, Aerith Plus.
Right. And
Aerith Plus, meaning like the added on version of the 7nm version, if this is going to be the less cost version that there are, it makes more sense in Fremont by and large. This doesn't make sense to put in a Steam Deck Pro.
Right.
So if we go along those same
because it's
lines,
20 watts, right?
It's 20 watts nominal.
Yeah.
You could push it far further if it was connected to mains and a bigger heatsink, right? Like you can go up to 50 watt, no problem.
But 20 watts on a handheld is just crazy.
20 watt on a handheld is the upper end of what you would I typically say don't go more than 17 watt, 18 watt is where my personal like even for the Asus, right? You put in performance at 17 watt. That's a high end sweet spot of where you want to go. Going further, you're going to have like just these massive diminishing returns with no actual payback for it. But if you're plugged into a wall, getting those few last like percent, like, whatever it is, it will pay to do it, especially because they bumped memory on that Aerith Plus to 8533 mega transfers. So we really do have considerably more bandwidth to play with now. So we can drive that frequency up far further, because there's a 1.6, which is very relaxed. To give you guys an idea, like even latest gen RDNA 3 goes to 2.9 gigahertz default, not even overclocked. So we have this wide gulf of what we can. The PS5 went up to 2.3 gigahertz, no problem. So getting this up to 2.4 gigahertz really shouldn't be an issue. Likewise, to go to 4.5 gigahertz on the CPU, but going to those, you're going to be in the 40 to 50 watt area. Now, is that enough to do 1080p? Whatever. Not really. No.
Right.
So you're still in you're in a better spot for 800p, 720p. So you are going to have to employ upscaling techniques, which they are getting much better at. And I think Valve would do the work to make sure FSR 3.1 with whatever other bells and whistles is on there is as good as it possibly can be for that device to hit 1080p and still have, really good ultimate image quality at a render resolution of 1080p, like what you actually see. So I think that the ultimate result is that you could get there, but you'd still, especially for other games that were not made by Valve, you're going to be in the 30 FPS area of trying to upscale to 1080p still inside of that thing. Even though it's, it could potentially be 40% better than the Steam Deck.
I think the 1080p question is also important from a deck verified perspective. I know at this point, like, I feel like us on this panel and probably like people that are really dedicated to Steam Deck have pretty much like written it off, right? Like deck verified as a thing, and don't really pay attention to it. So maybe that's just the answer. Maybe we just don't pay attention to it anymore. But I feel like there are plenty of games that would play just fine at 1080p. The problem comes in the consumer knowing which games would play well at this native resolution, and buying those games, sticking to those games, and not necessarily buying games that aren't going to play well, or at least if they do buy them, knowing that it comes with some sort of like risk, you could say.
Yeah, like, could you imagine if if you went on PlayStation and like you go and you buy a game for PlayStation for your PS5, and it's like, oh well, this is running at 15 frames per second. Like, does that happen? I don't know, maybe sometimes, but not that often. And a lot of games would not run very well on this chipset at that power level. For instance, I bit the bullet because I found, by the way, Rich, I owe you a beer or something because you told me about GG.deals, and I was able to get Monster Hunter Wilds for $50.
Nice. Sweet.
So it's like $20 off. So a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
But wow, does that game run like dog shit. And I'm not even playing it on my Steam Deck. I'm playing it on my ROG Nook, hooked up to the TV. Does not run very well.
Right, yeah. It's really upsetting, man. Like, Capcom used to be better. Like,
and the thing is they're using the RE engine, right?
Oh, they are?
You look at
Wilds?
the RE engine, and they have made some beautiful, very well optimized games on the RE engine. And then there's this, and you're like, what is happening here? It's so strange. Bad decisions were made. Even though I love Monster Hunter, I'm going to keep playing this game, even though it runs like garbage. I'm just going to lower my resolution, make sure my VRAM's low enough so that I can not get super chuggy, and then turn on frame generation and just grit through it and play my game because I love the gameplay loop.
So I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't think you did.
Oh, okay. So the 9070 XT, I tried getting it. They sold out at $600 instantly, and now they only have them for like $700 and $800, which I'm not going to get. But at $600, I would definitely have sold my 7900 GRE, which is my PC, my living room PC, gaming PC. Apparently, people are having really good time. There's a set of software that you can get that's called Optiscaler. And basically what that means is any game that has DLSS now has FSR4. So you have a 9070 XT, you're like, oh, that's DLSS? No, it's FSR4. And I
thought FSR4 was required the hardware that's in the new AMD GPUs.
It is in the 9070 XT.
He was talking about buying a 9070 XT.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your old chip. Gotcha. All right, I understand now.
Just so I'm like combining a bunch of things here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there, that's awesome that is there for AMD side for people that are going to be getting RDNA 4 going forward. It's really upsetting because especially during the PS3 360 generation, a lot of Japanese devs kind of like didn't catch up to the HD generation. It was only Capcom that was like banging on all cylinders, and MT framework was fantastic. So it really kind of pains me to see where even like Dragon's Dogma 2 and now this new Monster Hunter, when you see it and like you look at the performance you're getting and some of the image quality results that you're looking at are like muddy, and you're like, what is going on? Something somewhere is very wrong. Yeah. And it really pains me a bit because Capcom used to be on top of their game. So it's this whole thing, this generation, like starting from 2020, everything that has happened, it feels like almost a lost generation of, I don't know, gaming. I don't want to say, like, there's been games that have been great that have came out, but it has been,
it's the hardware and the excitement there, right?
There's been this like weird roller coaster of like, now we have games that are like, the requirements have frame generation in them. And like, you're like, guys,
I just wish they would stop chasing better graphics. I understand that a lot of times I don't want to, like, if you're somebody who, like, graphics are really important to you, please don't take offense to this. I find it so stupid that they think that is why people play games, is for the graphics. If the reason why I was playing a game is so I could look at something pretty, I would just watch a freaking movie. If I would play a game because I want the game, I want the gameplay, I want to experience me doing something and interacting with this world. But the people who are making all of the decisions, they seem to be like, well, we got to make sure that we're using 4K and ray tracing, and who cares if the game runs at 10 frames per second? It doesn't really matter, because look at the screenshots that we can show. And when we go to sell our game, we can run it on, like, we've chained together 68 5070s so that we can get this. We can get this, and we've pre-rendered everything, or in-engine footage instead of actually showing gameplay. Like, all that stuff is just driving me up the wall, and it's the reason why some of these games play like shit, is because they're like, the devs are forced to focus on the wrong thing, or at least for me, what would be the wrong thing.
So this is the thing, and I've always been kind of so when Russ would always like kind of like talk about the raster boys and whatnot. I am a raster boy. Like I totally am, because at the core of what we're talking about, especially for handhelds, we do need to be able to render at a baseline render raster wise, right? So that is still extremely important, and we're not yet at. A lot of people are coming to, they'll always talk about ray tracing is important for dynamic gameplay. And it is, because how can you have pre-baked lighting if you're going to have randomly destructible walls and stuff? You can't, right? You need to have some type of lighting mechanism that can happen in real time. So ray tracing becomes invaluable then, because then ray tracing itself, if you were to make a game from the get-go with ray tracing, it would actually accelerate game development time, because now there is no such thing as pre-baked lighting. You just light the scene. You're like, oh, I poke a hole in here, and then light comes in. And there isn't anything really to do. Like, you can just, okay, here it is, and you're not trying to, min-max whatever pre-baking you can do. So there is value to that, but we're not there yet. So we have this weird mishmash of, like, art direction that needs to be pre-baked on a lot of things, but we're still using ray tracing. And it's like the lowest end of the totem pole type of ray tracing, like reflections in puddles, reflections in mirrors, reflections in chrome. And it's like, that is like the barest minimum, like the first level type of thing that anyone cares about. What we actually care about is diffusion of light and bouncing light, and how the colors from bounced light affect different things, right? Like, all of that is what we want to try to get to. So the ray tracing being as an end goal, I can get it, but this is, again, when we talk about like how this whole generation feels like this weird mishmash of trying to have these things, have your cake and eat it too, has resulted in just smushed cake. We have to like spatula off the floor and say, eat your cake. Like, I don't want that smushed cake. Get smushed cake away from me. So it's, I don't know. I don't know. There's like, sometimes there's like things that are good. So like in Avowed, like when I was playing Avowed, like there's sometimes when Avowed looks just fantastic, right? Yeah. And that's a UE5 game. And I sometimes look at that whenever, especially in the desert scene where there's like lots of rocky terrain and stuff, and that rocky terrain looks fantastic. And I kind of think of, you ever the poem "For Want of a Nail, My Kingdom Was Lost"? Mm-mm. You're not familiar with it? So it's the whole thing is like, for want of a nail, the king wanted a nail. Like, for want of a nail, the horse threw a shoe. Because the horse threw a shoe, the warrior couldn't go to battle, and because he couldn't go to battle, they lost the battle, and then they lost the war. And for want of a nail, he lost his kingdom. And I feel like that when I look at like the rocky terrain and how nice that looks in Unreal Engine 5, I'm like, that is why we lost the kingdom. Right there, we lost everything because of this. This really nice looking rocky terrain. And UE5 looks nice in there with all the nanite and luminant type of stuff. And everyone went over to Unreal Engine 5. So I don't know, man. Sometimes it feels defeating. It feels defeating right now. And there are some, like shining beacons of hope, like what is it, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. A lot of people are talking about that game. That game looks fantastic. It's on Crysis Engine, and that, remember when Crysis was a game, was like, can it run Crysis?
Right. Can it run Crysis?
Yeah. And I don't know. So there's like little things. Avowed does look good and doesn't run terrible. So obviously Unreal Engine 5 can work good. And Stalker 2 came out with Unreal Engine 5. So there's been varied types of games that have come out there. But I'm really starting to believe like Indiana Jones was on the Motor Engine, which was on the a pivot of the id Tech 7, right? I love id Tech 7. Now we have Doom Dark Ages coming out soon, which is going to be another id Tech 7 game that is always going to have ray tracing enabled. So I don't know, well, real-time global illumination, but I don't know. Hey, this is a long thing to get to the end of this thing. I think we all palpably feel it, where it's just this weird mix, and we have this NVIDIA technology to like fake our way to obliviousness. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm still a raster boy.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm not a raster boy, but like, I think the way it surfaces for me is, and this was already happening right before 2020, where like, let's say every 5 years as a kid, I was excited about something new hardware wise, or probably even more frequently than that. Right. Before 2020, I think it was like PS 360, Xbox 360 for sure. Right. Like I was excited about that. And I don't know, like at some point it was like Switch, Steam Deck, that was those were the only things I got excited about. Like I wasn't excited about PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series. So like
they didn't look much different.
They didn't. And so like similarly, like graphics cards, right? Like I knew I had to upgrade, but I wasn't excited about upgrading anymore. And some of that may just be me getting older, but I think some of that is just like this diminishing returns that we're hitting. And that's where like I feel that like raster boy kind of the same malaise that you're feeling, I think, Carrie, that's how it surfaces. It's just like, yeah, I don't need new hardware, or I'm not going to be excited about new hardware as much as I used to be. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I also think that we get to this limit where you can't really push it too much further. But you go back and you look at the PS4 and you're like, the graphics were pretty damn good.
They were.
Like, why do they have to keep trying to improve them when it doesn't actually look better? It just performs worse. That's the thing. Like you look at Monster Hunter Wilds, the textures look like they came from a PS3. I downloaded the high texture pack, or the whatever, the big texture pack. I installed it. My frames went way down, awful. Yeah. Turned it back off, and I was like, okay, well, I'm still playing the game because the game is fun, but the textures are garbage. Like they look real bad.
It does.
I have a corollary for you.
Yeah.
So you said, what would you say? Why does it have to keep getting better, right? Why do the graphics?
Well, I think that's... for the audio listeners, I did better in quotes because it's not actually getting better.
Yeah. Likewise, Ozempic, right? The diet drug, right?
GLP-1 receptor,
where you lose weight, you're on Ozempic, you lose weight, and you don't get it back. Your appetite is just lower, right? And you also know that like all of the food companies have been manufacturing food such that to make it more attractive, more addictive, right?
Yeah.
So apparently, as a result of Ozempic, they're trying to make it even more addictive, like go past the Ozempic barrier. And so like, it's mind-boggling, right? Like, what are the lengths we're going to go to just dismantle like decent human being living so that corporations can make more money, right? Like that's really the goal. Boy. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Something more
Something more. Let's pick a story out of the show notes. Carrie, you got something? Oh, you know what? Before Carrie picks something, real quick, I just want to mention, because I know I'm going to forget, Carrie and I are going to be at PAX this year. We may or may not be doing a panel. We don't know yet. Bob is going to be, if we are, we're doing it with Bob, and Bob is trying to get that hammered out. But if you are interested in going to PAX, then I have a giveaway. The people at PAX sent over Gleam, and there's going to be a link in the description down below. So if you are interested in going to PAX, there's a link in the description down below. You go click that, fill it out. Now it says here, important note, it says you are finalists. You're not winners, you're finalists. And I think that has to do with whether or not they can actually let you go, like if you are too young or something like that. You'll have to do all of the stuff, and I will leave a link to all of the things that you have to do. I don't get anything out of this, but if you could get free tickets to PAX East, then there you go. Link in the description down below. All right, awesome. Carrie, what were you going to say?
I want to choose the Split Fiction selling well.
Selling really well.
Yeah, they actually crossed 2 million. I think earlier today. 2 million sales.
That's more than the Xboxes, the Xbox handheld is going to sell.
Yeah. I'm super happy that it's sold so well. My son and I have been playing, and we're thoroughly enjoying the game. Right now, we took a beat because during the week he's at school and I was working. But we finished the first 3 chapters, and we'll probably get back to it this weekend. But right now, Roblox has a thing going on, so they have like a big challenge or whatever. So he's doing that right now. And in any event, we played. There's like some really fantastic parts in there. I don't know if you guys all seen one of the things, but you're like on a part where you're on like a motorcycle, and one person's driving and the other person's shooting. Then in like at the end of that, it's like, oh, your bike is going to explode. It's like, what? He's like, yeah, it's a thing that's onto, it's like an anti-theft measure. like what? She's like, here, use this phone to sign up and disable it. So you going through, and then it's like you're going through all these things, like accept the terms and conditions, and you're going through the phone trying to do it, and it's like it has you enter stuff, and as you enter, the auto correct words would plump in when you press space. You're like, oh no, so you have to like go and press the autocorrect one to get to it. It was a lot of fun, and it's actually an achievement to complete that part. But there's like little bits and moments in there that it really is fantastic, and they have such varied gameplay. It really does feel like an extension of It Takes Two.
Yeah,
like a lot of ideas that they wanted to do in It Takes Two kind of made it into Split Fiction, and I'm really, really loving it. And I love how with the friend pass, the friend pass, like it is cross-platform. Really cool, yeah, that's a super awesome feature. Like before you would do it like on Steam, right? You would have remote play to play with a friend. So you can do that with any game, right? He's just like, now you're just like streaming your game to them and then accepting their inputs, which is actually an awesome thing by itself. But to have them download the game as the friend pass version so that you don't have that streaming nonsense, really awesome. I'm so glad that it sold 2 million copies. I'm really loving the game. It deserves all the accolades that it's getting. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
And it's getting some serious accolades. Right now it's got a 91 on Metacritic. I don't usually put stock into numbered reviews. In fact, I think that they are overall bad for the industry. But when a game is really good, it tends to have a high number on Metacritic. And, there's no real arguing with that, even though I don't like them. And if you look at the reviews, there's like Push Square said, Split Fiction is Hazelight's best game yet and stands out as one of the most accomplished and fun co-op titles on PS5 to date. PC Games said it's a declaration of love of the world of video games, and I'm happy to play it with my friends. A big contender for Game of the Year. Eurogamer says it's fantastic from start to finish. A joyful co-op testament to the power of the human imagination. Like, people are loving this game, and the only reason that I haven't picked it up is because my wife doesn't play video games, and my son I don't think it's a kind of game that he would particularly be interested in. But maybe I'll end up picking it up and trying to play online with somebody because I do think that it looks really cool. Rich, you a big fan of Hazelight stuff?
I am. I don't have this. I haven't played this yet, but I do plan on playing it this weekend, and I'm really excited. By the way, Bill, you mentioned Metacritic. So there are a few critiques I have of Metacritic, but one thing I want to point out is that OpenCritic has two different ways that they do their aggregation. And the one way I like better than the Metacritic way. So like the second way is more of like a Rotten Tomatoes Steam aggregation where they just aggregate the thumbs up, thumbs down, right? So it's 98% of critics recommend Split Fiction, which I think probably does an even better job of conveying like how just momentous this is for Hazelight, right? So kind of a big deal. Also on that link that you posted in our show notes, the headline is Split Fiction blows It Takes Two out of the water, which is insane because It Takes Two sold a ton of units too. So, and I forget, I have someone here, someone sent me something, a friend of mine, apparently sold 23 million copies total. It Takes Two. So
I could see like people that played It Takes Two became fans of Hazelight. And it was actually kind of serendipitous because my son because we had played through a bunch of Hazelight. We played It Takes Two first because it was a part of EA Pass, which I have because of Game Pass Ultimate. Right. So we played that, and then we started playing the rest of their stuff, which I hadn't played with anyone. And we just like fell in love with all of Hazelight stuff. Time went on, and then my buddy was like, hey, when's the next thing? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I checked, and I was like, oh, how about that? It's coming out pretty soon. So, when it came out on launch day, Wario posted a link, and there was a deal for it for $40 on Xbox through Newegg. So it's like, $40. That's fair enough for me. That's my go price. So I bought it, and because it doesn't matter, he had it on Steam with the Friends Pass. I was like, oh, whatever, no big deal. It didn't kind of matter where I bought it, and so I was like, all right, let me just do that. So yeah, really, really enjoying the game so far, and I can't recommend it enough. And I love that they made the decision that it is a co-op game through and through. You need someone to play with. And they have lowered the barrier with that friend pass.
Yeah.
To just like, okay, they don't need to buy it. Just let them play with you.
Yep.
And I think that is showing that it does work, especially with all the sales that they have. So I am hopeful that Hazelight does not have this entire genre to themselves because no one really wants to like, oh, I can't make a co-op game because then, it's not going to sell well. And I feel like that they've proven that it can. So hopefully we see more of something like this.
I don't know if we will. Like, didn't It Takes Two win Game of the Year the year that it came out?
I remember.
It did.
It did, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you would think, whoa, holy cow, look at that. There's this weird thing. They're couch co-op game. Let's make one of those. But you know what happens instead is the moronic suits are like, we got to make sure that we got a live service game so that we can sell you microtransactions over and over and over again. I know I'm being negative, but I feel like
it's the truth.
I feel like if we were going to see more games like this from companies that aren't Hazelight, we would have seen them by now, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, then like we only have like indies or Hazelight to look forward to. Then I guess so be it. The core crux of it is that it is a single player like experience. It has an end to it. It doesn't have this perpetualness to it.
Yeah, and
it requires an additional person, and those are investments of things that like people don't like. There's like a part of me, I guess, like we as like the gaming industry, like we really need to like pivot somehow, some way to where single player games, because they are like a one-off transaction, the stock market looks at that and goes, oh, you had good sales, well that's not going to continue, like no one cares. We almost need a way that like you don't buy a game, you're just like putting money, you're just buying stock in a game company. Like, oh, I like that idea, I'm going to buy stock in it. And that's how you buy the game, you just buy the stock. Because we need to like fluctuate this thing so that the suits look at this number that's going up and like, oh, it's good. I don't know how else to do this. I really don't. I'm coming up empty here, guys.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out how to think outside the box.
By the way, my hypocrisy is not lost on me, knowing that I I'm playing Monster Hunter Wilds, and like that's a live service game with microtransactions, so I can change what color my beard is in the game, or whatever.
It's not like it's not like a brand new one, right? It's like they've been doing it for a while.
And like, I mean, I'm playing Marvel Rivals, right? So I don't think that live service games in a vacuum are a bad thing, right? Like, it's not that. And I have plenty of gripes about, maybe we'll talk about them, about some of the things that, NetEase might be doing. But I think that the problem is just this soulless pursuit for just, endless cash or endless user base or whatever. I think that's the problem, right? And so like even in Marvel Rivals, you can see that there's a lot of passion that's put into it. There's a lot of trying to make the customer happy. And so that's what I think we need to see more of. And, we're seeing less of it. But I will say, like, it is up to indies, right? And it's up to us to, buy and play those indies. And so like Hazelight, to me, I know that this is published by EA. I don't know if EA acquired Hazelight. Did they?
EA publishes it. I don't know.
EA publishes it. I think it's still under EA Original, so probably not. In any case, even indie adjacent, right? Because I am one of those people that like use indie very like flexibly. I'm okay with that. And Hazelight is one of those. And I'm perfectly comfortable just embracing those companies and investing by spending my money in those companies.
And more importantly, your time.
That's right.
Right. Because how much money have you spent on Marvel Rivals at this point?
Yeah, $0.
$0. That's what I knew that was going to be the answer too. Yeah.
Let me add it all up. Carry the one, $0.
Yeah. Same. I haven't spent any money on Marvel Rivals, but I played it. I mean, I haven't played it as much as you, but I played it a bunch.
Can I tell you, so by the way, you can unlock costumes, right? Like there are various ways to unlock costumes without spending a dime. Mm-hmm. And my son desperately wanted this Star-Lord skin, and he grinded the shit out of it. Sorry for cursing. But you can unlock achievements, you get points, you can do all this stuff. He grinded the crap out of it, and he unlocked the skin. And there was a bit of nostalgia for me there. Like, you remember like unlocking costumes in Mortal Kombat, whatever. And I was like, I could tell that he felt happier that he grinded for it rather than paying for it. Right. And I was like, it was a moment of pride, I gotta say.
That's awesome.
I do prefer that thing, but the grind to earn it is so far out of whack now because they're trying to get you to pay. Whereas when we were doing it, it felt great, right? Like you were just going through like, oh, cool house, and it would like, okay, I have to put like an hour or two to unlock this thing.
Agreed.
And everything got kind of weirdly perverted since.
Yes, agreed.
It's just Chuck E. Cheese. The Chuck E. Cheese really ruined everything.
Every time my son and I play that game, he'll tell me about like some skin that he's like, oh, you can get this, you can get that. And I'm like, I don't even look at them. I don't look at any of the skins.
They look good.
They do.
They do look good.
You're not wrong. I saw the Thing skin.
Yeah, the trench coat.
He's got the camera, and as a camera guy, I'm like, oh, I kind of want a camera. But let's be honest. Let's be really honest. Most of the time, I'm just looking at the back of the character anyway. And let's be even more honest. Most of the time, I'm not looking at my character. I'm looking at the reticle and the other character that it's pointed at. So who cares what my character looks like? I don't need to play dress up.
I think for our generation, we are like the most immune to this like carrot that they're trying to dangle in front of us. And
it depends on which nostalgia string you're pulling at, because it'll definitely hit you differently.
I get like, so my daughter has, for whatever reason, started playing a lot of Fortnite with her friends. So she has me playing every now and again, and her friends make fun of me because I have like this ninja guy from like, I don't know, the first Fortnite or whatever. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, why don't you have a better skin? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, like they were like almost making fun of me for having a default skin. And it was like I saw that happening, I was immune to it because I'm not going to care. Like, I'll play a few rounds with you and I'll own all of you, and I'll do it in a default skin. But like, like, all right. But like, you could see, like, if they're thinking that, their friend group thinks that, and then
Certainly.
that whole thing, having a skin is like having a Prada bag. Having that is like having Gucci shoes, or whatever the hell it is. It becomes a status symbol. And then that is what is actually on sale. It's not that it's anything else, and it really just kind of attacks that angle, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't care about a virtual Prada bag, but people do. And
I mean, it's also like you log into AIM, you use AIM, and you didn't set an away message. You remember that, having an away message on AIM where and your
I used
profile?
ICQ.
Oh man, you didn't use AIM, Kerry?
I use IRC.
I used IRC.
IRC.
As well.
I used IRC a lot.
Classic. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Dude, do we have a second? Can I just this is like way out of the an IRC
I mean,
story?
his excitement level means
Right?
I have to say yes.
Correct.
Like, let's go.
All right. The year is 2004. It's I think it's summer 2004, August 2004. Halo 2 leaks, the French copy leaks, and I fly onto a different IRC form boards to find out where it is. And then I found someone who has it. So then I started downloading it. Mind you, I'm still on dial-up in what is this? This is 2000. Was I on dial-up? No. When I was getting it, it was just going slow from France, just slow as dirt. I was on cable in 2004. So it's going slow as dirt. It's taking hours. Meanwhile, I start downloading at 1 a.m. My Xbox is not hacked. So I'm like, okay, I have to hack my Xbox. So I started looking up how to hack a soft mod an Xbox. And it's like, if you have the games, you can do it. And I had Mech Assault. So I was like, okay, sweet. I have Mech Assault. And then it's like, get this game save. And I was like, I don't have the Daytel game save thing to PC. But I did have a game save cartridge that goes into the controller. And I did have, so I don't know if you guys remember the original Xbox controllers, they had a breakaway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Classic.
I also had the adapter that you can connect that adapter and plug that into your PC. And then I was like, I wonder if I could just modify this driver from Daytel to just load my controller with this. So then I do it and it works. And I'm like, sick. I just made my own Daytel memory controller thing.
What?
And I get the file to to do the exploit. I boot up Mech Assault, load the thing, soft mod my Xbox. I'm still downloading Halo 2. I'm getting it all done. I started burning Halo 2. This entire sequence is 4 hours, 5 hours. So from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. sometime in the summer in the morning, I'm hacking my Xbox and downloading a leaked French copy of Halo 2 and succeeding.
Not just hacking your Xbox, but porting a driver, right? So
I totally MacGyvered the entire situation, and I was like, no one knows what's going on, but this is the most hackery thing. I'm on IRC downloading a French version of Halo 2, modding and hacking to get. It was the dopest thing, insane. And I had no one to tell, and I'm just like, this is the awesome.
That is legend status, yeah. Jeez.
That's awesome. All right. Well,
man,
I think with that,
we can't. There's nowhere.
We cannot top that, ladies and gentlemen. We got to end the show at that point. Carrie, what have you been working on, man? What's next for you?
So I'm still working on the same thing I was before. The only thing that I pivoted over to was with the latest version of AMD's drivers, the 25.3.1 drivers. They do support Rock M through Windows Subsystem for Linux on Windows side, so you can do AI stuff on Strix Point as well as the 9070 XT. However, I've learned that they actually blacklist this in the Strix Point Halo driver. So I think I have to modify that and then load an on-sign driver to actually get that to work.
I don't know what he's saying.
So that's where I've been messing around with that all week, is trying to get Rock M through Windows Subsystem for Linux working, and I have it loaded, except it won't load the GPU because of this. I only found this out because in a little bit of like like asterisks. It's like, oh, it can Rock M support, not supported on mobile AMD APUs. I'm like, oh, the Strix Halo is that? Like, oh, okay, that'll be why. So I kind of burned through a week of nothing, but I kind of been enjoying just taking a small break. But that's where I am. So I have like benchmark videos, but I'm probably going to be talking about the next generation of Xbox in a video with all the news that has come out. Just kind of wrap it up and put a bow on it.
All right. Rich, you making videos or are you just watching Paradise? And
I am definitely, I'm calling it a sabbatical now. I am definitely enjoying my sabbatical. So like, I think, previously I just wasn't sure. I like sabbatical because there's an implication that like, sure, I'll probably come back. I just don't know when. Right. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I had a channel, same channel, right? Just different name, notable releases before the Steam Deck stuff, before Fan the Deck, What's on Deck. All the videos are still there. So if you go to oldest, I have videos from 2017. And so I made videos from 2017 to 2018, took a 3-year break, came back in 2020, 2021, really. So like maybe it'll be 3 years, maybe it'll be less. I don't know. But actually I do have a video. There's a piece of hardware that I have. So I may be making a video for that. So we'll see.
Oh, what's the hardware? You can't say yet.
I think I can. INEO?
The 3?
The 3.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I should be making a video on that. I haven't really cracked it open yet, but hopefully this weekend.
All right. And you can find his stuff over at youtube.com/fanthedeck. You can find Carrie's stuff over at youtube.com/thefox. And if you are right here, you already know where to find my stuff, but go ahead and click subscribe before you go anywhere else. And, thank you for hanging out with us for about an hour and a half. You guys are awesome. Stay rad. Bye-bye.